As soon as the government is open again, as soon as this member is sworn in, she will be the 218th vote. Boom, the case has been forced, and those files are going to have to be opened.
Hi, I'm Fergus Macphee, and welcome to the Trump Report on Times Radio. A reminder, you can watch us every day, Monday through Friday, on our YouTube channel, and you can also listen and follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. Joining me today on the show, I'm delighted to say, is former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh. Joe, how are you today?
I'm off, but I'm generally off. But Fergus, I promise I'll watch my language. These are crazy, unprecedented times in America. But man, we've been saying that for 10 years.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we will actually start with something. We do have a lot to get into, but we'll start with something slightly different because you've actually today experienced firsthand a knock-on effect of the government shutdown. We've actually sort of rescheduled this chat. I think we're supposed to chat tomorrow, but you are currently one of the around 3,000 passengers affected by the flights delayed or grounded as workers call in sick.
Yeah, look, our government is shut down, and one of the immediate impacts being felt is at our airports. Air traffic controllers are essential workers, so they've got to work, but they're not getting paid. And so then what happens is they begin to call in sick or do other work. This is beginning to create delays at airports. Today was supposed to be a travel day for me. It's been pushed to tomorrow. But man, we got to get the government back open, and I don't know how this is going to end.
Yeah, I guess, and also the longer that goes on, considering what you just said, is the reason it's happening because if, like you said, if workers don't, they don't get paid if they show up for work. So is it the longer that this goes on, the more likely travel disruption and other disruption like this is likely to continue?
Yeah, the last extensive shutdown we had was in 2019, lasted 35 days. After about a week or 10 days, the airports really became America became almost untravelable because air traffic controllers who have to go to work but don't get paid just stopped showing up. So that's typically one of the first areas where Americans feel it. I think next Thursday, the military will not get paid. As a former politician, no politician wants our men and women in uniform not to get paid. So there's pressure. And I have no doubt that Republicans and Democrats behind the scenes are feeling the pressure to do something.
They're feeling the pressure, but do you see them acting, or you think this shutdown will continue?
I thought it would continue for quite some time. The Democrats have been more resolute than I thought they would. I think they've surprised Republicans. I think Republicans thought they'd cave. Trump's an utter idiot. So everything I'm talking about, Donald Trump really doesn't give a damn about or doesn't understand. But the Republicans understand it. And privately right now, Republicans are panicking because this also really begins to impact the economy because people have less money to spend. Our economy, because of what Trump's done, is already in a bad place.
So is it in one of the party's interests more to stop this from happening, to stop this shutdown?
I think it's more in the interest of the Republicans to stop the shutdown. Typically, and we're seeing this in the polling, the party in charge gets blamed. Republicans own the House, they own the Senate, they own the White House. Man, they own the federal government, so they're going to get the lion's share of the blame. The Democrats understand that. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump in a couple of days just came out and said, let's do something or we've done something. He'll make up a bunch of but some sort of a deal will be gotten to.
Okay, we'll move on now to the National Guard because they have descended on Chicago. Hundreds of soldiers have now arrived at an army facility outside the city to deal with what Donald Trump has repeatedly called a hellhole of crime. Now, President Trump today also called for Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker to be sent to jail, claiming they failed to protect ICE officers. Joe, I know you are a Chicago native, you're born and raised there. You became a representative for Illinois. What's your reaction, your feeling, seeing this happen in your hometown?
Can we just stop for a second and be shocked for a second? Look, it's impossible to be shocked at things Trump says and does. But the current president of the United States this morning publicly demanded that 2 state and local officials be imprisoned. Imprisoned. You combine that with the fact that Trump is militarizing our streets, combine that with the fact that he's trying to make America into a police state. You know, I call Trump a fascist because I believe he's a fascist. A lot of people give me grief for that. What is this but not fascism? I mean, really, what is this? And we can't normalize what he's doing. I think people around the world need to understand that this is not normal in America. Presidents, we do not put the military on our streets. Our founders rebelled against this. Our military has nothing to do with law enforcement. Only in extreme emergencies can a president federalize National Guard members. Trump's making up a bunch of stuff. This is not normal, and it's really dangerous.
I guess the issue with the fascism question, in terms of sort of the definition, I guess people would go back and say, well, it's not yet, it's not a single party state.
Again, that's not the only definition of fascism. If you and I walk through the definition and we walk through everything Donald Trump is doing, glorifying the military, using the military, he's turning ICE, our immigration cops, into his own personal security force, prosecuting his political enemies. He's taken over the Justice Department to go after his political enemies, blaming brown and black people for the decline of America, disappearing brown and black people off of our streets, attacking free speech, silencing media companies and other businesses around the country. I go on down the line. This guy's a fascist. Fascism is not coming. It's here. The question is, we only have 2 political parties, and the Democratic Party, they got their own problems. And the reason that this guy is in the White House is because the Democratic Party was utterly out of touch.
Do you have faith in the Democratic Party in the midterms next year?
That's such a great question, Fergus. I'll answer it like this. Do I have faith that we'll have midterms next year? No, I don't. And I want to be really serious. And none of this, by the way, is hyperbole. I think what Trump is doing with his military takeover, his attempted military takeover, is he wants to create violence. He wants violence because he somehow wants to stop the midterms from happening. He wants to declare martial law or whatever and stop the midterms from happening or cause so much havoc that the midterms are really messed up. You'll notice that he wants to put troops in Democratic parts of America. Again, he doesn't want brown and black people voting. So I'm not convinced the midterms will happen. And I'm worried that the Democrats, I'm a new Democrat, only been one for 4 months. I'm worried that my political party will not get their act together.
So how are you making the link with what's happening right now with sort of the National Guard going to cities around the country and this fear that you think that then might link to the midterms not happening?
Well, and as has already been demonstrated, Trump doesn't want to stop with the National Guard. Remember, 2 months ago, he sent the Marines as well to Los Angeles. And he very publicly said, I'm going to send the military into blue cities and blue states. A president can only do this, the Insurrection Act of 1807, if there's open rebellion or an open insurrection in the country. None of that's going on right now. Donald Trump stood in front of the American people 3 days ago, Fergus, and he said Portland was burning to the ground. Burning to the ground. That's an easy lie to disprove. He called Chicago a war zone. So what's he doing? He knows there's not violence now and unrest. The presence of the military, he believes, will provoke violence and unrest. I need to remind everybody listening to us, that Donald Trump wanted January 6th to happen. He wanted the violence of January 6th. He wanted the Capitol rioted. He wanted the election overthrown. He's doing the same thing here. He wants to plant that seed that, oh my God, these cities where Democrats vote are super violent. We need the military. So when he puts the military out there, his voters will believe he has to do it. But it will all go toward intimidating Democrats from voting.
Mm. You mentioned the insurrection out there, the 1807 Act. I think it was last used during the LA riots in 1992. This is one of those things, because I believe even during his first term, it was something that he threatened to do. Is this one of those things that Donald Trump consistently says and doesn't deliver on, or do you think he is gearing up to use it?
Fergus, that's such a great question. And this is what makes me so sad about this era we live in, because we've so normalized Trump. Like, if any other president of the United States publicly said that that governor and that mayor should be in jail, oh my God, it's all we'd be talking about. There'd be impeachment proceedings. But you know what, Fergus? We say that's just Trump. Trump lies every time he opens his mouth. So when he lies, it's no longer news. That's just Trump. What we know is Trump's done it before. He's incited violence before. I think he does want to do it. You mentioned his first term. There were protests in Washington, D.C. in his first term. Trump ordered his Secretary of Defense to tell the military to fire on those protesters. His Secretary of Defense said, no, sir, we can't do that. Pete Hegseth, I think he's like 17 years old. He's not going to defy a Trump order. He'll do exactly what Trump tells him to do. Donald Trump, Fergus, stood in front of 800 generals last week, and he was like preparing them for war against the American people. So, yeah, I think we need to take it really seriously.
He did. He used an interesting choice of language when he was speaking to Mark Carney at the White House earlier this week. He was on camera and he said these Democrats are like insurrectionists. They're so bad for our country. Yeah, and I'm not sure that was. I think that those use of words might not have been an accident. But I just wanted to ask that he's threatened to use it before, like I mentioned. But is there an argument that he doesn't actually even need to? He's about to send the Guard into Chicago. He's already done it in LA and DC.
Can I just stop one? Because this is really, really important. So, like I say, Trump's a strong man. He's a fascist. One of the reasons he's able to do this, be lawless and do all the things that dictators do, is because we do not have a Congress. Again, world reminder, we don't have an independent Congress right now. So the only thing trying to stop Trump is the courts. Trump's use of the National Guard in L.A. Ruled unconstitutional by a judge. Right now, a federal judge said it's unconstitutional for him to send troops to Portland. Tomorrow, there'll be a hearing in front of a judge on whether Trump can send National Guard troops to Chicago. Again, I know you know this. Our audience needs to understand the president does not command the National Guard in America. Each of the governors do. That's what's being tested right now in court.
So even the fact that right now these troops are, at a base just outside of Chicago, they're at the door. There could be a legal challenge that comes back and prevent them from actually going into the city.
Yes, completely. The hearing is tomorrow. We'll see what that judge says. You know where I am. This is kind of like a slam dunk. There's no rebellion. There's no insurrection. What do you mean? But we'll have to see how this judge rules. The other really interesting thing, Fergus, is I used to be a Republican my whole life. I believe fervently in states' rights. Republicans used to believe in states' rights. But now, because they are so beholden to Trump, forget about states' rights. Illinois doesn't want to employ their National Guard, and Trump's grabbing National Guard troops from another state. This is like really authoritarian.
Mm. Does this Republican Party at all resemble the one that you were a member of?
Oh man, Fergus, I wish I didn't have to watch my language. I'll just say heck no. I'll watch my language, Fergus. No, not at all. Which is why I'm no longer a Republican. I was Tea Party. The Tea Party became MAGA. MAGA is an authoritarian embracing thing. That's what this Republican Party is. And I just believe it's going to be this way for a long, long time, even beyond after Trump.
Um, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he said that the state would use every lever at our disposal to stop this power grab. I mean, you already mentioned legal challenges there. What more can be done?
It's a great question. Every single legal channel. If a federal judge rules against him before the week is out, appeal it. Get this up to the Supreme Court ASAP, because this is a major issue. Trump wants to do this around the country. He's testing the courts. The courts are having a hard time keeping up. The only other thing a political leader, a governor, can do is rally his people to go out in numbers like they've never gone out in and peacefully protest wherever ICE, our immigration cops, or the National Guard is. I think that's what the governor and the mayor have to really take a lead on, to peacefully protest in huge numbers.
Mm. You also still spend a lot of time in DC, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like I said, this hasn't yet happened in Chicago. We're waiting to see what happened. When this has sort of happened in a similar way in DC, what's been the sort of general feel in the city?
And by the way, it's a really good point, Fergus. The president does command the National Guard in DC because it's not a state. So the president has command authority over the DC National Guard. And the National Guard is still here in small numbers. I mean, basically, I think the track record is they've been doing nothing but sitting on their butts and picking up trash for the last couple of months. Those National Guard troops and Marines that were in Los Angeles for 4 or 5 weeks did nothing. And by the way, again, these National Guard troops, Fergus, these are men and women who have lives and jobs. And for the president of the United States to use them as props to advance his political thing is despicable.
You said they've done nothing. Obviously, we're waiting to see about that legal challenge, but it's reported that in Chicago, they could begin their assignments this week. It's a little bit hazy about what those assignments actually are, but other than immigration enforcement and crime reduction, I mean, are you fearful for what's in store? Or as you said, you think it'll be more of the same that we've seen in other cities?
I can't tell a lie. Look, I think where this is all headed is violence.
Between who?
Between Trump and his masked ICE agents and National Guard troops and any other military presence on our streets, and the American people, because ultimately the American people are going to resist this. And I would predict it's going to lead to acts of violence. Look, peacefully protest. But Fergus, it's going to get to the point where, as a free citizen in this country, I have a right to engage in civil disobedience, which is peacefully ignore law, peacefully break the law. I think that's where we're headed. The only case Trump can make is, I'm sending the National Guard troops to Chicago to protect federal facilities. He'll have them in the streets because he wants them provoking violence. So I'd be surprised if this doesn't head to a dark place.
I just want to end this section because the ICE facilities and the immigration issue is just one part of it. But I'm just trying to get inside the head of Donald Trump and his administration. They could look to the fact that this week illegal crossings at the US-Mexico border hit their lowest level in over 50 years, and they could say, "Look, our strategy is working."
That I completely agree with that, and that's the border. And again, as a new Democrat, this issue of immigration, probably more than any other issue, got Trump elected because the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, ignored immigration. Democrats have ignored, and you've had the same issue in many countries in Europe where the left has ignored immigration. I've always spoke out against immigration. I've always been a border hawk.
We're having the same conversation in the UK.
Completely. And it's an important conversation because immigration, mass immigration, has changed the complexion of the UK. Real concern for Americans as well. That issue got Trump elected because he spoke to it. Democrats ignored it. Now, Trump has taken it to an utterly dark, ugly, un-American place where he's disappearing peaceful immigrants who've been in this country contributing for 20, 30 years, and he's just disappearing them off the streets. That's worlds different than secure the border and go after violent criminals who are in this country illegally. The American people every day seeing video of 70, 80-year-old Latino grandmothers, mothers of American veterans who've been in this country for 20 and 30 years, and we're grabbing them and throwing them in white vans and detaining them. That's not where most Americans are. So I think you're going to see a course correction because this is not what they voted for.
I'm sure we could talk about this issue all day, and we will follow it closely. I just want to end with Pam Bondi, because the Attorney General testified before a Senate hearing earlier this week. And, she was mostly quite fiery and combative, but one area that she was slightly more defensive on was, unsurprisingly, the Epstein files. She attacked Democratic Senators Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse regarding what she described as their own supposed links to the disgraced financer and convicted sex offender. Is this to be expected, do you think, at a Senate hearing? Or is it to do with that there are fears that there is sort of bipartisan support to force this issue?
This is a unique issue and a unique problem for Trump. And I know you know the history, but for years, Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and most right-wing radio and talk people said, these Epstein files, they're the mother of all scandals. This is where we're going to finally put an end to the deep state. And Trump and J.D. Vance, they all promised that elect us and we'll release the Epstein files. This issue animates Trump's base. And so then Trump becomes president and he says, never mind, nothing to see here. His base doesn't understand it. So this is a problem for Trump, and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, they're all covering for Trump because clearly there's something damaging and embarrassing for Trump in those files. Fergus, a new member of Congress was elected 3 weeks ago from Arizona. She hasn't been sworn in yet because she would be the final vote that would force the Epstein files to be released. And Republican Speaker Mike Johnson hasn't even sworn her in yet. And that election was 3 weeks ago. So her entire district doesn't have representation because they're afraid of the Epstein files. It's not going away.
So it all comes back to this government shutdown, because that was going to be the final point to end on. Thomas Massey, he claims that he does have the numbers. He thinks he's got the 218 signatures for when the government returns. So is it a case that as soon as the government starts sitting again, there will be a vote forced on this?
As soon as the government is open again, as soon as this member is sworn in, she will be the 218th vote. Boom, the case has been forced and those files are going to have to be open.
Well, we will certainly be watching that and all the other updates here closely on the Trump Report. But for now, Joe Walsh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Good to be with you, my friend.